Hello, you guys, and welcome back to the podcast. How are you? How is your June going? How is your summer kicking off? Are you feeling overwhelmed, sorted out? What have you? How are you doing? I always like acting like we're going to coffee, and then I ask those questions, and I'm like, you're not. I am talking to a screen. But please answer and feel free to slide in the DM so that we can actually have a conversation because it is weird feeling like I know you guys so well and we have all of these conversations, but in reality, it's like me talking to myself. Like, that's a lot to process personally. So we're going to move on actually before I get a little too freaked out. But anyway, I'm excited it's June. I'm excited to relax this month. When you're listening to this, I am probably in Italy being a little trophy wife on Lake Como. I have always taken my partners on trips internationally. And this is like my first time going and my partner is working and I'm not. And so I've just been joking that I'm going to be her little trophy wife, like sipping Aperol spritzes on Lake Como, just vibing. And I'm so excited. And I literally also can't wait for the fact that like I just get to answer Marco Polos on Lake Como. That's such a slay moment that I'm just, wow, what a dream of a life. I feel so lucky and I'm like so excited and so grateful. So 2 little things now that we're going into busy season and all of that good stuff. I just want to remind you that if you are trying to prep for wedding season or in it currently and are feeling overwhelmed by lighting, we have the indoor and artificial light course, the flash photography course, and the harsh light course, which is a forever favorite of mine, walking you through how to photograph in harsh light, which you need this month and next month specifically. The artificial light workshop just got 14 new modules in it, which is crazy. You get to watch the entire in-person retreat, including attendee Q&As, which are just like so helpful. And then the harsh light course is going to get a few updates this summer as well. So get in on those because it's always better to get in sooner rather than later, because every time they get an update, they get a price increase and you always get access to future updates. So 13 out of 10 recommend. We also have our surplus of freebies, which we will link for you guys below. But I wanted to talk to you guys today about a topic that I want to talk to you about how I made 40K in the month that I kicked my ex-husband out. And it's one of those things that I have like briefly talked about when talking about other subjects, but I feel like it's something that I like simply have not given enough attention to because one, it felt so weird for so long to talk about having a 40K month, but also to talk about that in correlation to like getting a divorce. But it's been 3 years now, which is crazy. And it's such a powerful story for me, both as a person and a business owner. And I wanted, there's just like so many layers to how that happened, why it happened, what it affected in my life, how it improved my life. And so I just kind of want to like dissect it with you because I think it's one of those things that like, I would have heard of someone else doing that a couple years ago and would have been like, okay, cool, that happened to you. That would never happen to me, but it did happen to me. And I kind of want to walk you through like why. And for those who don't know, that 40K month was when I released my indoor and artificial light course. It was the 3rd course that I had ever launched, and I had already launched my Pinterest course and my harsh light course, but the indoor and artificial light course was kind of like my first official, like crazy well produced. I hired like a videographer. We did it in studio. Like it was a really, really layered course, like jam packed with info. To this day, it's still our bestseller. Like we don't have a single course as bought out, nor like just like dozens on dozens on dozens of hundreds possibly of like reviews of it just changing people's careers. Like it's our fan favorite course. It's one of my favorites as well. So it was a big launch. And at the time that I launched it, there's 2 things. 1, no one was really talking that much about artificial light. And 2, I wasn't that deep in my education career. And I think that's one of the things that people don't realize is like I just said, we had only launched 2. Like I had only launched a PDF and then a video course. And so I wasn't like this like highly developed educator. This was in 2019 and I didn't go full time with my education until 2022. Like I was part-time education, part-time wedding photographer until 2022. It's literally last year. So this was like 3 years before I even did education full-time. And I think that's such an important tidbit, because I think sometimes people think they need to be like this crazy well-established educator. They need to be like 30 years into the business in order to justify teaching on something. And you don't. You just need to be an expert on the thing that you want to teach about. And I think that's one of the biggest things, is that like you don't need to be perfect and a master at everything. You just need to be a master at your way of doing something. Within that course, I didn't invent artificial light. Please, you think I'm the inventor of the flash? Absolutely not. I did not invent flash photography, nor did I invent off-camera flash. However, I have specific ways of doing things that I like to do. I have specific setups that I've learned over time, specific gear that I've accumulated over time that were like my way of doing artificial light. And so that's what I wanted to build, was this course that was like, here's how I do it. Like, this is my approach to artificial light. And so that really was like thing number one that I think made that launch so successful, was that I was obsessed with artificial light. I was obsessed with the way that I did it. And that's all I sold. Like, that's all I talked about when it came to selling that course and that launch, is I was just like, I'm obsessed with artificial light. Here's what my work looks like with artificial light. Here's what I love about it. Here's why I want to teach you about it. Not, this is why it's important. Buy this, buy this, buy this. Like, I didn't even have a launch plan. That's how early on in my career was. I didn't have a launch plan. I just was obsessed with artificial lighting and showing you guys how I used it and what my work looked like and why I was passionate about it. And I think that's why you guys felt so called to it. I think the second part is that like, I really put my heart and soul into my business, even that early on, when I wasn't like, I was not showing up personally in my business and in work, because I was in the middle of a horrible marriage and I didn't want anyone to know anything about me or anything that was going on behind closed doors. So I was really private. But the one thing I wasn't private about was how much I loved my job and how much I loved working with people and how much I loved helping people. And that's why people wanted to learn from me. Like, that's why they felt called to that course. And there's so many reasons why that launch shouldn't have gone the way that it did, right? Like, I wasn't a full-time educator. I didn't even have a launch plan. I barely had an email list. I just was like, hey, I'm going to fuel this with so much passion that like, even just talking to you about how much I love this thing is going to motivate you to buy it. And that's what happened. And then you combine that with what I describe as like, honestly, just divine intervention. For those who don't know, the artificial light course in that launch is entirely what I credit for being able to start my life again after my divorce. Like, my divorce, my ex wiped out my bank account, took most of the assets. There was a period where I had like $100 in my bank account, and I had been earning such good money for years that like having that little money and being in charge of the home and the mortgage was so stressful. Like, so unbelievably stressful. And I had my business set up in a way where I was an S corp. And so I had to pay myself monthly with quarterly bonuses. And so basically I got to pay myself that month. But the money that I earned from that launch couldn't come out of my business bank account until January the next quarter. And that's when my divorce went through. So basically there was this 40 grand essentially just sitting in my business bank account that no one could touch. And so after my divorce went through and I was in the new quarter, I was able to pay myself that. And I truly firmly believe that like this 40K launch was twofold. And the fact that one, again, I was passionate about talking about something that I'm just passionate about. And two, I have never so blatantly trusted myself and chosen myself as I did when I decided to get a divorce. Like, I have never done something that bold that was like, hey, let's completely light our lives on fire down the foundation because we can't live like this anymore. Like, it was not an easy divorce. It was not an amicable divorce. It wasn't an amicable or easy marriage. Like, it was a living nightmare. All of it from start to finish. And yet I knew I had to do it, and I had to choose myself, and I had to choose a different way in order to, happiness wasn't even on my radar. I just was like, I can't do this. There's got to, like, this is the worst. So there's got to be something at least a little better, even if it's not blatant extreme happiness. Like, I can't keep doing this. And I firmly believe that when we show up for ourselves and we say like, hey, we're doing this, like, we're going to do this and we're going to do this for ourselves. Like, we have to do this, whether it's God or the universe or whatever higher power you believe in. I truly believe that they see that and they match that energy. They see this energy of just like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to choose myself and to better myself and to better my life. And they see that energy and that trust and that just brazenness, that grit, and they match it. They match it by being like, oh, you're going to show up 100%, then I'm going to show up 100%. And I truly believe that that is what happened during that launch. And it's been such a beautiful thing to reflect back on when I am going to be launching anything new or changing anything in my life, to be like, one, is my energy as aligned with this thing that I'm launching or selling or whatever it may be? Like, do I feel as passionate about it as I did back then? And two, like, how is my personal life aligned? Like, can I expect my business and my bank account and all of those things to thrive unbelievably if I'm out of alignment in other ways? Like, all of that energy is connected. The person who is exhausted in their personal life isn't going to have an amazing launch the next day when they clock in for work. Like, I really do think of it like, you know, when we were younger and we go into high school to take tests, if you stayed up studying till 5 a.m., you're going to do bad on that test no matter how well you prepped, because you're tired. You're not going to execute well. And if you are in a zone of operating out of survival or exhaustion or scarcity, like, the person that feels that way is the person launching, and that energy just gets mixed into that pot. And I genuinely don't think it matters how good your launch plan is if your energy is just down in the dumps. And I think that's why it's so important to talk about this stuff, because like, I don't think I would have had a 40K month and a 40K launch had I launched that even like 6 months prior, where I was just complacent with misery and I was just like coming to terms with being miserable and surviving the rest of my life. I don't know if I would have had a launch like the one that I did. I didn't have a launch like the one that I did. My Pinterest course and my Harsh Light course didn't do anywhere near a 40K month or a 40K launch. I think the Pinterest course was more like 10. Like, maybe, I don't even remember. I should run the numbers, but like, I don't think I would ever have experienced what I did had I not had my energy be in a zone that was like, fuck it, we ball. Like, we are prioritizing ourselves. We are getting this done. There's no other option than bettering our lives. And that energy of asking my ex to leave, of choosing myself and choosing to get a divorce and choosing to burn my life down so I could start again, that energy bled into that launch of like, that person who was so willing to choose herself was also the person bringing that level of energy into that launch. And so I think that's something that people need to be so keen on and so aware of when launching something or trying to expand or trying to scale, is like, where is my energy at right now as a person? Is it shitty? Like, is it sad? Is it remorseful? Is it shameful? Is it scared? Is it playing it small? Because if you're feeling that way, that's okay. You can and should work through those things. You don't need to like shame yourself further, but maybe be like, let me sort myself first. Like, let me focus on being a better human, feeling better, bettering my life, and then I will focus on launching this big new thing. Because I promise you, the person that executes a launch needs to be just like on top of their shit. I don't care how good your launch plan is if you feel horrible. And like, that is the biggest takeaway that I want you to take out of this, like, why I was able to have a 40K munch and a 40K launch the week I kicked my ex-husband out. It's because I said, I will be choosing nothing less than myself. I will be choosing nothing less than greatness. I will be choosing nothing less than a better life than I am right now. So this is a short episode, but I just wanted to reach whoever it needs to reach as you embark on whatever next chapter of your business is, that you have to choose yourself and have that energy surrounding you in order to take things to the next level professionally. So if you guys have any questions, as always, please slide into my inbox, into my DMs. Please subscribe or share this podcast episode if it resonated with you. It's so helpful for us to get the podcast out. But either way, I love you guys. I mean it. I hope you know that. I'm so grateful to have you here in the podcast family, and I will see you next time.